So starting from March 2004 up to August 2008, I worked in Saudi Arabia. The company I worked for was a well-known British company, was Page Protective Services, and our client has been the European Commission to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The contract, we had a contract, 4 years contract, and the rotation has been 3 months in country, 1 month off. So later on we changed to 2 months in country, 1 month off. The wage was about 65,000 pound, British pound in a year, and yes, it was a very good job we did there. And I remember very well when I arrived in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in the King Khalid airport. I was picked up by the bosses. The first boss was David, who was the big boss, you know, and the operations manager of the company, and Martin was my future team leader. So we faced a lot of problem in the beginning because we had no weapons, we had no ammunition, we had no armored car. So everything was to be set up very soon. So, and the biggest problem was we had no manpower. I was the only man, the first man, feet on the ground, you know. 10 days later, the second man arrived, was a French guy, and I remember very well, we have to keep the embassy and no weapons. So we found ourselves sitting in front of the embassy with a knife in our pockets, you know. It was crazy, it was stupid. So, but very soon things changed, and manpower were coming in, armored cars were coming in, weapons are coming in, we had ammunition. Not so much, because the Secret Service, Saudi Arabia Secret Service, they feared a coup d'etat, I think so. And the manpower we had about 2 teams of 12 men. We had guys from Scotland Yard, so ex-policemen. We had ex from the Royal Marines, ex-French Foreign Legionnaires. We have Portuguese guys and Spanish guys. 2 Germans also, yeah. And I was one of the German guys. And we organized ourselves in 2 teams. One, we had the RST team, Regional Security Team, and the CPT team. While the Regional Security Team was responsible for the security of the embassy itself and of the residence of the ambassador. He had his wife, he had his children and his drivers, his cook, a small place, a residence in the middle of the town. And the CPT teams has been responsible for bodyguarding, purely bodyguarding. So every time the ambassador moved from A to B, when he had a dinner, when he had a speech to hold, the CPT teams, close protection team, has been with them. They did a very great job, you know. And we have been, our lodgement has been the Arabian Homes compound. We had 2 villas, 1 team in 1 villa, the second team in the second villa, and there was a 3rd villa for the CPT team, specially for the CPT team. Because these guys had to work all time like this, you know. There had been a kind of quick reaction force also. And the life within the teams were very good man. Human relationships has been good. Some problems here, some problems there, but sometimes we carried it out with a, you know, fighting between men, you know, go behind the building, and then we did our job, and next day we drank coffee together, no problem. So of course, I told this that we had to make security for Mr. Bill Gates. He was 3 days in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and he was just purely business. He wanted to buy the 4 Seasons hotel chain, and I cannot talk a lot about this because he arrived with his only security staff, and we only furnished the conductors, the drivers, bodyguards when he moved from A to B, because Page has been the first company, the only company, British company in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And I remember this, it was just to sensibilize yourself that at this time, Saudi Arabia was a dangerous place. Just 1 year before happened the terrorism attack on the US consulate in Jeddah, and every day something happens, things happen. So we had to be very, very carefully in what we did and when we did it, you know. One funny scene I remember very well. I was in the RST team. I was to make security for the residents, and we agreed with the ambassador that from 10 p.m. on, nobody leaves the house, no movements around the house. So I was sitting in the guardhouse, and suddenly it was 12 o'clock in the evening, so midnight. somebody opened the door to the guardhouse, and I sprang up. I took my weapon, pointed my weapon, charged my weapon. It was the ambassador. So I almost shot the ambassador. He just wanted to tell me some some peanuts, you know. And the ambassador was a nice gentleman. He was an Irish guy, Bernard. And yes, so all in all, we did a great job in Saudi Arabia. But this was the begin for me, 20 years private security. But the real private security life, the real interesting private security life started after my time in Saudi Arabia. But this is another story. So thanks Amitié Legionnaire, thanks to give me your time to listen to me, to my speech, what I have to tell you. Amitié Legionnaire, stay safe, brothers, and don't miss the next one. Bye bye.